Has this ever happened to you? You're in the middle of a passionate argument or telling a hilarious story. You are about to make the most important point, the one that will win the debate or get the biggest laugh, and suddenly poof. Your mind is a perfect blank. A desolate wasteland where a brilliant thought existed just a moment before. You stand there, mouth slightly open, grasping for a word that has vanished into thin air. It is a universally awkward and sometimes embarrassing moment that makes you question your own mind. If you felt that frustrating silence, you are not alone. This is not a sign that your brain is broken. It is a common human experience with a surprising number of scientific explanations. In this journey, we are going to explore 20 fascinating reasons why your brain sometimes hits the delete button on your thoughts right when you need them most. We will uncover the secrets of your own mind, from simple daily habits to complex psychological phenomena. By the end, you will not only understand why this happens, but also feel much better about it. Fact 1. You are a victim of the doorway effect. This is one of the most studied and bizarre reasons for sudden memory loss. Scientists call it an event boundary. Imagine you are in the living room and you think, I need to grab my keys from the bedroom. You get up, walk to the bedroom, step through the doorway, and then stop. Why did I come in here? The simple act of walking through a doorway can trigger your brain to flush its working memory. The brain sees the new room as a new scene or a new event. It decides that the information from the previous scene, the living room, is no longer relevant, so it archives it to make space for new information. It is your brain being ruthlessly efficient, but it leaves you standing in the bedroom feeling clueless. This happens with more than just physical doorways. Even switching between tabs on your computer or apps on your phone can create a digital doorway, triggering the same mental reset. Fact 2. Your brain cannot truly multitask. We love to think of ourselves as master multitaskers, juggling a conversation while texting and planning dinner. But the hard truth is that true multitasking is a myth for the human brain. What you are actually doing is task switching. Your brain is rapidly shifting its focus from one thing to another. This switching process is not free. It costs mental energy and time. When you are trying to hold a thought in your working memory while also processing another input like a notification on your phone, your brain has to make a choice. And often in that split second of switching from your thought to the distraction and back again, the original thought gets dropped. It is like a clumsy juggler who can keep two balls in the air but fumbles the third one. The thought you wanted to say is often that third ball. Fact 3. Your mental whiteboard is overloaded. Let's go back to our working memory analogy, the small whiteboard. Now imagine you are in a conversation. You are trying to hold on to the point you want to make. But you are also thinking about how you are phrasing it, what the other person is thinking about you if you are making eye contact, and what that noise was in the other room. Each one of these thoughts is another item being scribbled onto your very limited whiteboard. Soon there is no more space. To make room for a new thought or observation, the brain has to erase something. Unfortunately, the thing it often erases is the very sentence you were about to say, because it was the oldest item on the board. This information overload is a primary reason for going blank, especially in high-pressure social situations where you are self-conscious. Fact 4. The stress hormone flood. When you feel stressed or anxious, your body enters a state of fight or flight. It releases a hormone called cortisol. This hormone is incredibly useful for helping you escape a dangerous situation. It sharpens your senses and primes your muscles for action. However, it does this by redirecting resources away from brain areas responsible for complex thought, like the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain in charge of executive functions, including organizing your thoughts and retrieving memories. When cortisol floods your system, it's like a system-wide emergency alert that shuts down all non-essential services. Recalling that clever remark you wanted to make is considered a non-essential service when your brain thinks you might be in danger.
So the thought get lost in the hormonal static.
Fact 5. You are simply exhausted. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a critical function for your brain. During sleep, your brain consolidates memories, moving important information from your short-term whiteboard to your long-term library. It also cleans out metabolic waste products that build up during the day. When you are sleep-deprived, your brain is running on low power and is full of mental clutter. A tired brain has a much harder time focusing its attention. The spotlight we talked about earlier flickers and dims. It struggles to hold information in working memory and has a much slower connection to the long-term memory library. So when you try to pull out a thought, it's like trying to find a specific file on a very slow, disorganized computer that keeps freezing. Sometimes the connection just times out and you are left with that dreaded 404 error in your own mind. Fact 6. An unexpected distraction stole your focus. Your brain's attention system is like a guard at a gate. It can only focus on one thing entering at a time. Now picture this guard carefully inspecting a very important thought you are about to express. Suddenly a car alarm goes off outside your window, a notification pings on your phone, or someone walks into the room. The guard's head whips around to check out the new stimulus. In that momentary lapse of attention, the original thought, which was not yet securely inside the gate, simply wanders off and disappears. The chain of neural connections that held the thought together is incredibly fragile. Even a minor interruption, a 1-second distraction, is enough to break that chain. When you turn your attention back, the pieces are gone and you cannot reassemble them. It is not that you are easily distracted, it is that your brain is hardwired to prioritize new and potentially important information from your environment. Fact 7. You are probably dehydrated. This might sound too simple to be true, but its impact is profound. Your brain is about 75% water. When you are even mildly dehydrated, your brain tissue can actually shrink slightly. This physical change affects its function. Dehydration impairs cognitive performance across the board. It makes it harder to focus, it slows down your reaction time, and it significantly hampers your memory. The processes of forming and retrieving thoughts require optimal brain chemistry, and hydration is a key component. Think of it like a car engine running low on oil. It might still run, but it will be sluggish, inefficient, and prone to overheating. When you forget what you were about to say, it could be your brain's way of telling you it needs a glass of water. It is one of the easiest problems to fix, yet one of the most commonly overlooked causes of daily brain fog. Fact 8. You are experiencing lethalogia. This is the official scientific term for the frustrating tip of the tongue phenomenon. Lethalogia is a retrieval failure. The information is not gone. You know it is in there somewhere in that vast library of your long-term memory. You can almost feel its shape. You might even know the letter it starts with or how many syllables it has. But the pathway to access it is temporarily blocked. It is like knowing a book is in the library, but the librarian who knows where it is has stepped away for a moment. This often happens with proper nouns, names of people or places, or with less frequently used words. The block is usually temporary. The word often pops into your head minutes or even hours later, usually when you are no longer trying to think of it. This is because the frantic search for it creates mental noise and pressure. Once you relax, the pathway clears and the memory can be accessed. Fact 9. You are not emotionally invested in the thought. Our brains are not passive recording devices. They are biased. They prioritize information that is tied to strong emotions.
Think about your most vivid memory.
They are probably linked to moments of great joy, excitement, surprise, or fear. Emotion acts like a sticky note telling your brain, this is important, save this. When you are trying to say something that you do not find particularly interesting or meaningful, your brain is less likely to devote precious resources to holding it in your working memory. If you are recounting a story you are passionate about, you are unlikely to forget the details. But if you are trying to remember a bland instruction or a boring fact from a meeting, your brain's engagement level is low. It sees the thought as low priority and is more likely to let it slip away to make room for something more stimulating. The thought did not vanish, it was just never given a VIP pass by your brain's emotional bouncer. Fact 10. Your brain is aggressively trying to be efficient. Our brains are constantly working to predict the future and filter out irrelevant information. This is an essential survival mechanism that stops us from being overwhelmed by sensory input. Part of this filtering process involves a sort of mental auto-cleanup. If a thought has been sitting in your working memory for a few moments and has not been used or reinforced, your brain might assume it is no longer needed. It is a bit like a computer program that automatically closes unused tabs to save memory. In the time between forming a thought and waiting for your turn to speak, your brain might decide this information is old news and sweep it away. This is especially true in a fast-moving conversation where new information is constantly arriving. Your brain's ruthless pursuit of efficiency can sometimes be too aggressive for its own good, clearing out a thought you were just about to share. It is not a failure of memory, but an overzealous attempt at mental housekeeping. Fact 11. Your brain is running low on fuel. Your brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. While it only makes up about 2% of your body weight, it consumes around 20% of your body's total energy, and its favorite fuel source is glucose, which you get from food. When your blood sugar levels dip, your brain is one of the first parts of your body to feel it. This is often described as feeling hangry or having brain fog. Low blood sugar directly impairs the function of the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, the very areas crucial for memory and complex thought. So when you are trying to articulate a point but your brain has not had enough fuel, the cognitive processes required to form and hold that thought simply sputter out. It is like trying to start a high-performance car with an almost empty gas tank. The engine might turn over, but it does not have the power to actually go anywhere. That forgotten thought could just be your brain's low fuel warning light. Fact 12. You experienced a mental translation error. Having a thought and preparing to speak that thought are two separate and complex neurological processes. The initial thought can be an abstract concept, a feeling, or an image. To share it, you must translate that abstract idea into a specific language with proper grammar, syntax, and word choice. This translation process happens incredibly fast, but it is not always perfect. Sometimes you have the concept clear in your mind, but the translation mechanism stalls. It cannot find the right words to build the sentence. So you are left in that strange state of knowing exactly what you mean, but being unable to form the words to express it. It is not that the thought is gone. The thought is still there in its raw abstract form. The breakdown occurred in the production line between the idea and the spoken sentence. You are like a diplomat who understands the message perfectly, but whose translator has suddenly forgotten a key phrase. Fact 13. Your brain prematurely closed the file. Psychologists have a concept called the Zeigarnik effect, which suggests that our brains are biased towards remembering incomplete tasks over completed ones. An unspoken thought is essentially an incomplete task. Your brain keeps it active and accessible because it needs to be addressed. However, an interruption can trick your brain into thinking the task has been handled or has become irrelevant. When you shift your full attention to a new stimulus, say a question from someone else or a sudden loud noise, your brain might prematurely mark the unspoken thought as complete or closed. It clears the task from its to-do list to free up mental resources for the new, more urgent task. When you turn your attention back to the original thought, the file has already been archived. Your brain has moved on and the path back to that specific incomplete task has been erased. Fact 14. The pathways in your brain are changing. As we go through life, our brain's wiring is constantly being modified. This is a natural and normal process. Think of your memories as destinations and the neural pathways as the roads leading to them. When we are younger, these roads are often new and freshly paved, making travel quick and easy. As we get older, some of these pathways might become less frequently traveled. They might get a little overgrown or have a few more twists and turns. This does not mean the destination, the memory itself, is gone. It just means the journey to retrieve it can be a little slower or more challenging. You might have to try a few different routes to get there. This is why sometimes a thought seems to be gone, but then pops back into your head later. Your brain was just taking a more scenic and slightly longer route to find it. It is not a sign of failure, but a reflection of a brain that is rich with a lifetime of complex interconnected pathways. Fact 15. The rehearsal loop was broken. To keep a piece of information active in your working memory, your brain uses a process called a phonological loop or a rehearsal loop. You are essentially sub-vocalizing the information, repeating it to yourself on a constant mental loop to keep it from fading. For instance, if you need to remember a phone number for a few seconds, you say it over and over in your head. You do the same thing with a thought you are about to share. You hold it in the front of your mind by mentally rehearsing it. But this rehearsal process requires your undivided attention. The moment your focus is pulled away, even for a fraction of a second, you stop rehearsing. And without that active rehearsal, information in working memory decays incredibly quickly, often in just a few seconds. The loop is broken and the thought dissipates like a soap bubble. It is one of the most common ways we lose a thought in the middle of a sentence. We get momentarily distracted and stop spinning the mental plate. Fact 16. You are feeling the pressure of being watched. This is a close cousin of the stress response, but with a specific social flavor. When you are the center of attention, whether you are giving a presentation, telling a joke to a group, or even just talking to someone you find intimidating, your brain activates a self-monitoring mode. You start thinking about how you sound, what your face is doing, and what the other person thinks of you. This internal chatter is incredibly demanding. It consumes a huge amount of your cognitive resources, leaving very little room on your mental whiteboard for the actual content of what you want to say. The focus shifts from expressing your idea to managing your social performance. In this state of heightened self-consciousness, the original thought, which might have seemed brilliant when you were alone, feels flimsy and unimportant. Your brain jettisons the thought to dedicate all its processing power to the immediate task of not looking foolish. Fact 17. Your mind simply decided to wander. Sometimes the culprit is not an external distraction, but an internal one. Mind wandering is the brain's default state. When it is not actively engaged in a demanding task, it tends to drift following its own stream of consciousness. You might be in the middle of explaining a concept when a word you use reminds you of a song, which reminds you of a vacation you took, which reminds you that you need to book a flight. By the time you mentally return to the conversation, a few seconds later, the original thought is miles away. This is not a failure of focus. It is your brain doing what it naturally does, exploring the vast network of associations in your long-term memory. The thought you were trying to express was simply a stepping stone that your brain used to leap to a completely different topic without ever notifying you. Fact 18. The thought had no anchor. For a thought to be stable in your memory, it helps to be connected to other information. This is the principle of associative memory. New information is much easier to remember when you can hook it onto something you already know. When you generate a brand new idea or a thought that is unrelated to the current flow of conversation, it exists in your mind as an isolated piece of data. It has no anchor, no connections to other memories or concepts. It is like a lone boat in a vast ocean. Without an anchor, it is easily swept away by the slightest mental current, like a new thought or a minor distraction. Thoughts that are part of a logical sequence or connected to a strong personal story are much more robust because they are anchored in a rich network of existing knowledge. The ones that disappear are often the ones that were floating freely. Fact 19. Your brain chemistry is temporarily altered. What you put into your body can have a direct and immediate impact on your brain's ability to function. Many common over-the-counter medications such as antihistamines for allergies or certain sleep aids can cause drowsiness and brain fog, making it difficult to maintain a clear train of thought. Even something as common as caffeine can be a factor. While a little can improve focus, too much can lead to mental jitters and anxiety, making it harder to organize your thoughts. A caffeine crash can also lead to a sudden drop in mental clarity. Similarly, a diet high in processed foods or sugars can lead to inflammation and energy spikes and crashes that disrupt the stable chemical environment your brain needs for optimal memory retrieval. That moment of forgetting might be a direct signal from your brain about something you recently consumed. Fact 20. You just experienced a brain blink. This is a fascinating and very specific neurological phenomenon known as the attentional blink. Your brain processes the world in a series of rapid snapshots, not as a continuous video stream. When your brain successfully registers one piece of information, there is a very brief window of time lasting about half a second where it is less able to process the next piece of information. It is a momentary mental reset, a blink of your attention. Now imagine you are having a rapid exchange of ideas. You have your thought ready to go, but just before you speak you fully process what the other person just said. That act of processing can trigger the attentional blink. During that tiny fraction of a second, the thought you were about to say, which was next in line for processing, can get completely missed by your conscious mind. It does not get erased, it simply never makes it through the gate during that blink. So the next time your mind goes completely blank right before you make a brilliant point, take a deep breath and maybe even smile. You will know it is not a sign of aging or a flaw in your intellect. It is simply a snapshot of your brain in action. Whether it is a doorway stealing your thought, your brain's aggressive spring cleaning the tip of the tongue phenomenon, or just a reminder that you need a glass of water or a good night's sleep, you are now in on the secret. Forgetting is not the absence of memory, it is an active part of how our minds navigate the world. If this exploration helped you feel a little more at peace with your own fascinating brain, show some support by hitting that like button. And if you are curious to uncover more secrets about how your mind works and want to become a better captain of your own ship, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you do not miss our next journey. We would love to hear from you. Which of these 20 reasons resonated with you the most? What is the funniest or most awkward situation where you completely lost your train of thought? Share your stories in the comments below. Reading them helps us all feel a little more connected in our shared human experience. Thank you for watching and stay curious.